Hi, this is Elizabeth Estel, Homeschool Christian Mom, and thank you for joining me today. Are you feeling behind in your homeschooling? Maybe you're feeling like this turtle my son painted for me when he was 6, that you just are too slow and your kids are getting behind and you're concerned about what to do with it. So we're going to be talking today. I've consulted with some school teachers and from my own homeschool experience and see what we can do to get you back on track with your homeschooling. Now, one homeschooling mom did remind me that the only behind in homeschooling is the one that your children sit on. But I know what it means to have that weight on you and the anxiety of, oh, I'm behind with my lessons and I have to catch up, and what can I do to catch up? So let's look at some things that you can do today to get your kids and yourself back on track. The first thing you want to be looking at is the big picture. Especially if you have young children, some of their work pages may just be building on what they've already done. And so you can look at the section that they're studying and say, oh, for this section, these 3 work pages are the main thing. And then you can skip some and go to the next section. So for younger grades especially, make sure you're looking at the big picture and what you really need to do to modify the curriculum so you can move ahead a little faster. So you want to, number 1, look at the big picture, and number 2, modify the workload while still holding the kids accountable for the concepts that they need to learn. So this also goes to, why are you behind? Are you behind because of your own schedule and the disruption of work and home and homeschooling? Or are you behind because your children haven't been taking responsibility for their work? So you want to modify their work and still hold them accountable so that they can keep moving forward with their schoolwork. And the other thing is, you're going to need to add a little more work to their workload each day. So if they've been getting through their work in 4 hours or 3.5 hours, you're going to have to add a 30-minute chunk to the end of their day, or double up on at least one lesson 1 day a week. And after 5 weeks, you've gotten a whole nother week's work done. So you're going to add a little more each day, and you're going to have to explain to them, we're doing this because we're behind. It's important to catch up. We need to finish this work and learn these concepts, and that's why we're doing this. So part of this getting caught up involves the relationship that you have with your children. You're going to have to be dedicated to their schoolwork, and they're going to have to be dedicated to their schoolwork to get this done. So we're looking at the big picture. We're modifying their work while still holding them accountable. We're adding a little more each day. And we may actually even need to add another day, a Saturday morning work time. I don't know if a longer school year is an option for you, or you have to be done by June 30th at your district or with your school calendar. But however many days you have left, you're going to need to count those days with an extra Saturday morning in there, divide up the work, and push through to get that done. So make sure you know what your options are as far as what day or how much work you actually have to get done and what time it needs to be turned in. If you have the flexibility to go through some extra in the summer, I would certainly take that opportunity. The teachers I consulted with said, especially for science, the hands-on work is very important for them understanding the concepts. Now for math, I had some different advice. Because math is foundational and builds incrementally on each other, it would be difficult to rush the math. And the other thing that teachers mentioned is make sure your student can understand why they are doing what they're doing for math. It's easy sometimes for a student to guess, but they don't know why they are doing it or why they got the answer right. One example was this boy, Paul, knew what the answer to 5 times 8 was. He knew that was 40, but he didn't know what 6 times 8 was. He didn't know that he needed to add 8 more. He thought the multiplication facts were all separate from each other. They were all different, and he had to memorize them all. So he had 144 random math facts that he had to learn, and he didn't understand the concept behind it. So make sure you are testing your children, questioning them, so that you know that they understand the why behind their math, and connect it to word problems in real life as much as you can. Because remember, letters make words to explain communication, but numbers also explain how our world works, and they have a real life application. Don't forget that with your students. So we've looked at the big picture. We're going to modify the work while still holding our children accountable. We're going to give them a little more work each day. We're going to add Saturday morning work if that is an option for you. We're going to look into options of maybe making the school year a little longer to get caught up on your homeschool work. And the next one was we're going to cut the material into chunks. We're going to work for 30 minutes. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and we're going to work for 30 minutes, take a 10-minute break until assignments get done. We're not going to just say, okay, you work for 30 minutes today and you're done. If you're behind, and especially your high school students are behind, they need to take some personal responsibility to get their work done. Now, this is going to be dependent on your relationship with your child and their ability level, but that relationship and their motivation for their future plans is going to be vital to getting them caught back up. If they have had some previous success, they have some ideas of where they want to be for the future, they want to be in the same class as their classmates when they left school in March, they're going to need to take that personal responsibility. Yes, you're going to have to motivate them, and yes, you're going to have to push them, and yes, you're going to have some positive and negative reward places, or maybe an action plan in place to help them get through. But you're still going to need to work on that personal motivation with them, because that's a life skill that you're teaching them. As we all have jobs that we don't like to do, that we have to push through and just get them done every day. A mom has some jobs she doesn't want to do, and she has to push through and get them done. Every day, men in their workplace have some jobs they don't want to do, and they have to push through and get them done. So you're teaching life skills here, not just how to get caught up with your homeschooling. So remember that. Now, you're working with the relationship with your children. You are looking at the big picture with your children. So what if none of these ideas are going to work with your family? So that is the blessing of homeschooling, right? Is that we have that flexibility. We can take some time out, we can take a break, we can relook at the material, we can relook at how our children work best, and we can modify things to help them succeed. So if none of these ideas are going to work for you, let's take a step back. Let's look at the idea. We'll take a lesson from our turtle again, and we'll do things a little slower. And we'll find out what works, and we'll go with what works, and we'll move things a little slower. We'll find out what works, and we'll keep going. And we'll just figure out how best we can work with the children that God has given us. That is the wonderful thing about being a parent and teaching your children, is that you get to work with your children. You get to know your children. You love your children. You're intrinsically tied to their success in your most inner being. And so you can say, wow, for my child, this is what will work best. It won't work in every household, but for my child, this is what will work. And we can do that. We have the flexibility to do that, which is so wonderful with the homeschooling. So if you're feeling like the hurrier you go, the behinder you get with your homeschooling and your curriculum that you may have gotten from school, look at the big picture. What are the overarching themes that you need to teach and make sure your student knows? Modify the work while still holding the children accountable. Add a little more each day. Add Saturday morning work, and if you have the option of schooling through the summer to get caught up, that might be an option for you. When we had to do some in the summer, I still made sure we took days off because we all needed the break, especially me. And then we cut the material into chunks. Work for 30 minutes, take a 10-minute break. Work for 30 minutes, take a 10-minute break, and let's power through these assignments to get them done. Remember, you need to have a good relationship with your children and talk to them about motivation and their future plans. Tap into that. What are their goals? What do they like to do? What do they want to get done? What rewards are important to them? You might find that doing a canoe trip with them is a super motivating. You might find that they want to raise money for a village that needs school supplies in another country, and that's a huge motivation to them. You might find something else that maybe you wouldn't have thought of, but kids have big goals and big plans. We need to tap into that motivation and learn who our kids are, work with what God has given us, and we can move them forward in their homeschooling, and that they will help us be successful too, to move them forward and not be behind. That feeling of being behind is not pleasant, not to us and not to our children. So if we can get them caught back up, maybe a little ahead, that can teach them some good life skills and move them forward. So we're looking at the big picture, we're modifying the work, adding a little more each day, cutting the material into chunks to work on it, and remembering our relationships with our children and the flexibility that we have with homeschooling so that we can get caught back up. And remember, like the sign behind me says, you got this. I know it's difficult sometimes to modify our schedules and what we're doing, but the Lord can help you. We can work together. If you have any specific questions, put them in the comments and I'll answer them. But let's encourage each other as we homeschool together. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Please join me on my Facebook page, Homeschool Christian Mom. And there's an opt-in box on my blog page, HomeschoolChristianMom.com. I'd love to have your email address so I could send you some additional tips, tricks, and offers to help your homeschooling go better. Thank you so much for joining me and have a great day.